Hello everyone! With summer here, it's camping season, so for today's video, I'll be reading 4 true camping horror stories. But before we begin, please hit that like and subscribe for more true scary stories. So in Canada, we have a scout system similar to the US. Our system by level is Beavers, Cubs, Scouts, and Venturers. This happened during Cubs. So there was this house on a property of the camp. Beautiful house, nice wooden smell, it was great. During this time, all the troops around us gathered for a weekend up the house. There were maybe 6 to 7 troops gathered. We would be doing wooden car racings, etc. The house was split into 2 rooms, one for males, other for females, and there was a closet door connecting to each room. At the time, there was maybe 10 to 20 guys in one room and maybe 10 to 15 females. We would be sleeping on the floors with our sleeping bags. After brushing, me and the guys went back to the guys' room. We were talking and one of the kids said that this place was haunted and that the closet that leads into the girls' section was where someone was hanged. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I always had a strange feeling of the doorway, so much in fact that I specifically put my sleeping bag across the other side of the room. There was also an air vent there that I was afraid of as well, so I then moved it into the middle. Even if I had to sleep in between 2 guys, I didn't mind. That night, after the counselor shushed us to sleep, cause you know, guys, we talk for hours on end even if we don't get told to sleep. It was around maybe 4:30, I awoke, my head facing toward the closet, but I noticed something going down. The closet door was slowly opening. I was kinda stunned. Girls shouldn't be peeping on guys. That's when I see a shadow, no bigger than 6 feet. It was crazy tall for its size. Now, best I can describe from memory, it's like the color Vanta black. It was very blurry but crisp unto the middle. It slowly inched its way across the wooden floorboards. No sound, nothing. It just silently passed each kid as it went by. I didn't want this thing to see me, so I turned my head. It passed more kids the more it went down. I was now trembling. I don't know what it wanted. It kept moving slowly, passing a few kids ahead of me, and then it happened. The more it got closer, the more I felt dread. Not only did I feel dread, but I felt the air getting colder, and not just the physical feeling cold. It felt cold in my insides. The air got more dry and cold like liquid nitrogen. The greatest amount of that feeling happened when it passed me. It was maybe a few feet to the door, so when it went to the other entrance I was at, I am not kidding you, it was literally turning the doorknob. It pulled the door open and slowly exited, before, strangely enough, shut the door behind itself. That morning we were getting up for bed and walked down the rickety old steps. One of the kids said, "Did you guys see that shadow last night?" And maybe 4 kids' eyes widened. We all blurted, "Yes." We talked about it for a short while, and let's just say, after that experience, everyone's sleeping bag was moved to the other side of the room. Let me preface this by saying I'm one of the most skeptical people you'll ever meet. I'm not religious, I don't believe in ghosts or aliens and we come to the earth to abduct sense, although there's probably life out there. But this is the weirdest thing I've ever encountered, and I have no real logical explanation for it. No drugs or booze were involved. My friends and I went camping up in the White Mountains of New Hampshire, most summers in middle and high school, and a few years after till life happened and we all went our ways. Now, being a bunch of unorganized teen boys, man-children, we always took forever to get in gear and actually get going, usually not leaving southern Massachusetts where we lived until late afternoon, early evening. One year we got up there about 10 p.m. or so and decided rather than hike into the woods, we just sort of camp, crash out in the parking lot and hike in the AM. After a bit of unwinding and some food, everyone went to bed except for me and one other dude. We ended up wandering over to a small wooden footbridge over a river. It was a perfectly clear night filled with stars and a fairly bright moon. And we were shooting the breeze for a good couple hours about all sorts of stuff, movies, games, life, etc. It had to be well after midnight by this point. As we were chatting, we both got this creepy feeling of something being there, and it was sinister. Looking at the far end of the bridge, there was this massive dead tree, no leaves, just clawing branches. Silhouetted against the sky, We were both like, man, I swear that tree is creeping me out, but that's silly, right? At first we tried to dismiss it as silly, but both of us kept feeling more and more unnerved until I was finally like, screw this, I'm a grown man, I'm not afraid of a damn tree, I'ma walk over there. I get like 2/3 of the way across the bridge, and it feels like something reached in and grabbed my pounding heart, just went totally ice cold. I backed up and was like, yeah, I'm afraid of a tree, I seriously think I'm not coming back if I ever go over there. We retreated from the bridge and decided to go back to bed in the sleeping bags by the car. The next morning after breakfast, we decided to hike into the trail by going across that bridge. Halfway across, my friend freezes. Dude, I look across the bridge. It's a clearing. There's no trees there. My outdoor education trip took me to the snow-infested forest, and for the most part it was completely boring save for the occasional snow fight. Then it was the last night of our trip, and I'll never forget the last night for as long as I live. Now before that night I didn't have any trouble sleeping, but the last night it was like something was wrong. At first I assumed it was just homesickness, first time away from my parents. But then I looked to my cabin mates and counselor, and from the look on their faces I could tell they were feeling it too. It was a tense several minutes, and then something started calling our names. It was barely more than a whisper, but all of us heard it. The voice was seductive, alluring, and made me want to go outside. But the small amount of common sense I had back then ordered me to stay put. My counselor did not feel the same way and left the cabin to investigate. We could hear him yelling from outside. Come on guys, this isn't funny, the kids are trying to sleep. I guess he assumed it was some sort of prank. After a few minutes of silence, he rushed back inside. There was someone out there. Stay in here, he says. He grabs something from his bag and goes back outside. Listen, this is your only warning. I have a gun, and if you intend to hurt these kids, I will shoot. Silence. Then I heard 2 bangs. I swear it was the loudest noise I've ever heard. I could hear the other counselors come outside, and I hear them talk. I can't hear what they say, but my counselor comes back and says that for the rest of the night, we have to stay indoors. Eventually, sleep won out and I drifted off. The next morning, as the students are boarding the buses to leave, we see police cars on the road and police officers are talking to my counselor. Not too long after, my dad shows me the news and I found out what my counselor saw. He described it as something barely resembling a human, taller than 10 feet, with skin so pale you could mistake it for snow. That was all he could see before he fired his gun and the creature ran off. Suffice to say, I've had nightmares about it, and now I'm forbidden from going on any more camping trips. Now that I'm older and a little bit, but not much, wiser, my best guess that it was a Wendigo, but this was Southern California, an unusual place for such a creature. My boys and I were dry camping on a plateau above one of the many canyons in the Snake River Wilderness in late summer. The first night at about 1 a.m., we saw several lights rise into the sky, what seemed to be about 10 miles away. We immediately thought it was just drones and thought nothing of it. Then we started seeing flashing amber lights reflecting off of the canyon walls. So naturally, my curiosity compelled me to see what was going on. We got in the truck and started driving down the only road in the area, hoping that we could get close enough to see. After about 30 minutes, everything went dark, and we never saw any more lights. We never did find out what it was. On the second night, we had just gone to sleep when I was awoken by wolves howling. At that point, I wasn't scared at all and was kind of fascinated by the sounds. They seemed pretty far off, and it was cool to listen to. I drifted back to sleep, then sometime later was woken up by the sounds of running animals. I bolted upright just in time to see several animals that looked to be wolves, hard to tell by moonlight through a tense screen, running right past our truck. They never stopped, just a dead run past us. It is the only time I'd ever seen wolves in the wild, and it was intimidating to see just how big they really are. But even with all that excitement, that wasn't even the scariest part of the night. About 2 hours after the wolf event, I had to get up to pee. I didn't even want to get out of my tent, but the bladder kind of forced the issue. I worked up the courage to get up, slung my gun around my shoulder, and stepped outside. I was about midstream when a thud and the sound of footfalls came from the area just to my right. I spun and drew my gun in a full panic, only to realize it was a cow rubbing against a small pine tree about 40 yards away. I have never been so relieved to see a cow in my life. Well, that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching and stay spooky, everyone.